All right. So if you guys are just tuning in, this is Rock Guitar Solo of the Week, #1, brought to you by the good people at jamplay.com. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. I hope you like Jimi Hendrix. I hope you like rock guitar solos. And I hope you're tuning in with me live or catching the replay. And so what we're going to tackle is, so I've got like a composed jam track and composed solo for you, which I pretty much played. I was kind of improvising on my own solo that I composed for you guys. But yeah, that was kind of the idea, or some of the ideas that we're going to hop into. And so I want to show you some cool licks, but also just kind of how to compose a solo, and furthermore how you can just some ideas like beyond licks, you know, because it's one thing to kind of show you a lick, but I want to show you that kind of idea of composing a solo and putting everything together. And I want to introduce you to an idea of a motif, and also some ideas in terms of licks where you don't necessarily have to do something like some sort of canned, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with that lick. I play it, you know, and maybe you play it too, but yeah, there's something like for example, where I was going down on one string. Okay, so a lot of us guitar players don't think about just basic things like that, like just kind of riffing. I'm more like riffing on one string there and kind of playing like maybe more of what you might consider to be a rhythm guitar part, something that you might hear like, you know, Jimmy Page or Tom Morello play, you know, like kind of like a single note, one string riff. And yeah, and we can bust stuff like that into our solos. And as I mentioned, there's motifs as well. So there's a lot to dive into. And so, and then furthermore, I want to show you kind of like the inner workings and some of the techniques and kind of under the hood material that's going on in terms of scales and theory and techniques and stuff like that too. So if you are on the live call, again, my first question for you guys was what kind of guitar is sitting in your lap and where you're tuning in from in the world. So I'm tuning in from Fernie, BC, Canada, and I've got a Fender Custom Shop Stratocaster sitting in my lap, which I really, really love. It was quite expensive, but man, I just love Strats. I love Jimmy, and this is kind of my homage to Jimi Hendrix with the big headstock, which Fender started producing in the late '60s. And yeah, so I just love this guitar. It just has a wonderful feel to it. Okay, so why don't we just warm up on a couple of ideas. Now, all over jamplay.com, you'll be able to find, like in some of my courses, for instance, I go through the pentatonic scales in quite a lot of detail. Now, in this lesson, I want to show you some ideas of hybrid scales. And so, of course, we've got kind of our, like, because a lot of times, here's the thing, is that pentatonic scales, they always go across the neck. But a lot of times, as you know, you'll see a guitar player going kind of diagonally up and across the neck, something like, right, something like that. Where that's like actually accessing, you know, 3 or maybe 4 of the pentatonic scales. So I'm kind of wanting to reinvent the way that us guitar players learn pentatonic scales. So I want to kind of touch base on this. So maybe you know this already. We've got your first position, minor pentatonic scale like this. Okay, so something like that. And so if you know that scale, then great. Just why don't you go ahead and warm up on that. Just cycle up and down, okay? Okay, and so this whole riff that the jam track is based around is really right out of that E minor pentatonic scale, which sounds something like this. Okay, so it's really, as you can see, just using notes right out of that scale. And even furthermore, like the actual riff from Voodoo Child uses licks up here. right? There's all kinds of great stuff right inside of that one scale. So if you're playing it up and down, then great. And then we've got this second position minor pentatonic scale, which starts from the 3rd fret using your 2nd finger to make sure that everything lines up. Yeah, we got 3, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 4, 3, 5, 3, 5. Okay, and if we go down, so if you know that one, great. Okay, if you're just learning it, just do your best to pick up those notes. But here's the thing is, we're not really going to spend a ton of time on this, because what I want to show you is actually the hybrid scale of mixing those two together. And this is what just all the legends have been doing for years and years and years. Okay, so what I'm talking about is if we start with the 1st position, and then when you stop on that G string, move that up into the 2nd position, okay, to the 4th fret of the G, and then just use your 1st and 3rd fingers on 3 and 5, okay? And of course, don't forget about the open strings that we, you know, when you're improvising, you can certainly go, okay, and of course I'm adding in slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs and bends. Those are kind of the lead guitar essential techniques. But so if we go up that again, there's what the hybrid scale looks like when you're mixing the 1st position and the 2nd position. Okay, so that would be an awesome scale for you to really get your hand get under your fingers. Okay, so on the very first part of the solo, we've got this lick that sounds like this. So let's break that down. So this is kind of reminiscent of like the intro to Hey Joe, for instance. Okay, and it's actually uses a very similar lick there. But yeah, so in this case, I'm starting on the 3rd fret, and this is going to be page 1 of the tab. Just the first licks coming out of the gate. And we've got this move where I'm hitting both the B string and the E string, and I'm sliding up from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret on the B. Okay, so before we even go on further in that lick, I want to introduce you to this idea, which is a motif. So this little lick, bow, 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 bow. So that melody we're going to see throughout this solo that I've composed for you, okay? And of course is reminiscent of the some of the solo licks that Jimmy played in Voodoo Child. But yeah, so we've got bow, 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 bow. Just get something like that down and you'll be off to the races. And it's just such a cool lick to put in there because we've got this like kind of dissonant thing that resolves because this is an E note and this is an E note, right? Okay. Okay, so we get kind of a cool little electric guitar thing going on there. So, okay, so moving on in the tab, we've got something like this. We're going to bend this note, the 2nd fret of the G string. Now that's a pretty hard note to bend. Make sure if you're having difficulties with it, try bending it with your 2nd finger, but put your 1st finger right in behind it so then you get 2 fingers on the same string, which will really, really help you bend the string more. Cool, cool. So we got, and then this is a classic Jimi Hendrix lick. I didn't fully tab this out, but in the tab it's just like this. But what you can do is just a classic Jimi lick, which is a hammer-on with a pull-off. Okay. Then you basically, can just start waving to the audience, just like Jimmy would do. Sometimes he'd give the P symbol fingers and go like this. Okay. So of course that's doing a pull-off and a hammer-on, pull-off, hammer-on, pull-off, hammer-on, pull-off, hammer-on. Cool. So I see Jeff Boyle, Paul, Randall, Kirk, and Purple Goat on the call, and Adam. That must be Adam H. from Brisbane. Nice. And on the Campfire Guitar Star feed, I see Simon, Frederick, Bryce, Steve, Eric. Cool. Great to see all you guys on the call. So that's the first couple licks there, guys. Okay, so some pretty classic kind of Jimi Hendrix-esque stuff, right? Like, and right there, I'm actually doing a pre-bend, which sounds cool too. So I'm actually bending the string first. Kind of sounds like the intro to Wild Thing. What is it? Anyways, so okay, and another classic thing that you see in Jimi Hendrix moves would be, so this is so cool because we can actually get a lot of just sound off the guitar with no frets, because we're really rocking this E minor pentatonic thing, so you can actually hit your low E string and your top 2 strings just like that. And actually, I think it kind of works a little bit better if you do an upstroke on the top 2 strings. Okay. Now the next lick that you'll see in the tab is riffing off of the E minor, the E blues scale, which looks like this if we just kind of focus on the first half of it, or the first octave, which is this. Okay, so that's just adding in 1 note to that minor pentatonic scale. Okay, and I've found a lot of value out of using this and riffing in here a lot. Whether you're in G major, this sounds really good. Okay, but of course we're in E minor. And a lick like this just sounds so cool. Okay, and so what I'm doing there is I'm doing an open A string, hammering on to the D string, okay? Okay, and then I'm going back down. Okay, so you get that going on. I'll do it another couple times slowly, and then I'll show it to you fast again, but. Making sure I'm playing it the same way that I got it tabbed out. There you go, okay? And so once you get something like that, that's such a cool lick. It's very like, let me know what you guys think in the chat roll, but I think that it's like very Stevie Ray Vaughan-ish. I think that's something that you hear him play quite a bit. I love just riffing on that, so I wanted to make sure that I showed you that lick. So that first part again. And then we got this E blues lick. Okay, so now we're gonna go back to that motif, the bow, down, 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 down. However, this time through, what we're going to do is we're going to go so we're just going to expand on that motif a little bit so we can build the intensity in our solo. But that's a big thing I want you guys to take away from this lesson is come up with a melody like that, and you can go back to that same melody, and it kind of like gives people a just kind of like a stake in the ground, like something to come back to, you know? So that's the motif that I've chosen here, and it's a great one for this style of track, okay? So, and so speaking about Stevie Ray Vaughan, if you think about the intro to like Pride and Joy, okay, so we're grabbing these guys right here, which is your 8th fret on the B and your 7th fret on the E. And this sounds cool when you bend that second finger, the one on the B string. Okay. Oh, somebody's calling out Helter Skelter. Yeah, so there we go. So that's the next part, and then we're gonna link into this little section where we're hopping into probably it's gonna be my second favorite place to play licks on the guitar, which is this zone right here. Okay, and that's gonna bring us into, so that's kind of like that lick is leading us into this little zone right here, okay? And this is gonna be the next kind of hybrid scale that I'll go over here in a second, but check this out. Right after this, okay, there's that motif again. And of course it's a little expanded on it, a little different, but we got boom, 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 right? Okay, so, and that brings us up to the tab. Okay, so we got okay, so now we're gonna hit something like this. So that's just again that lick that we were doing down there a minute ago. We can actually do that same thing. So like if you think about B flat, A, G, well, it sounds really cool here too, but it just has a completely different sound because it's on a different string on a different place on the guitar. So we're going to go 7th fret, which is B, B flat to A, G to E. So again, that little passage, there's that motif, and then we're into this zone. Okay? Okay, so keep in mind that the rhythm of this track is kind of really basing off that kind of thing going like this. So we can play something like that and come back to the track, right? Like we went off, we did a big offshoot with this lick. And then we're back. Okay? So boom, 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 boom. So you can see that it's really like riff based in terms of that part of the solo. Okay, so always keep that in mind when you're riffing, or sorry, when you're soloing, like see if you can come back to the band for a minute, you know, or at least a few seconds before you soar off again and get wild. Because again, it's kind of like that stake in the ground where it's like, it feels like you're just getting grounded again, and it just connects with the music a little bit more. Okay, so now we're going to expand off of that single note riff, and we're going to go up to the 12th fret here. And then we got this kind of like a chromatic line almost, but there's definitely chromatic elements here. But yeah, so we've got 12, 0, 10, 0, 12, and then we're going to go down to 7. And then here's this descending line chromatically. Always dropping in that open string kind of in between notes. And you wouldn't really think about this note coming in there because that's the major third, but in blues and rock, you can definitely throw in that major third, you know, even though this track is like very minor based. And then I'm going to go back up. Okay, so that line again is just riffing. I'm kind of like creating a melody. So bum ba bum ba bum, bum ba bum ba bum, bum bum ba bum ba bum. Okay, one more time on that. Ready? Up at the 12th fret. Go. Bum ba bum ba bum, bum ba bum ba bum, ba bum ba bum ba bum. Okay, so that was right after this whole section. We're like. And that's going to set us up for this hybrid scale here. So typically a lot of times we learn our minor pentatonic scales like 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 4-7, 5-8, 5-7 here. So and you see a lot of times people teach it like this too. But it's just, and that's the whole thing that, and again, like I kind of want to rewrite the pentatonic book, because this little sequence, and I've got this tabbed out for you, and it's a super easy sequence to follow, but this is going to use kind of the best of that scale and connect us back up and get us right into kind of home base again, up on that high E string on the 12th fret. And all that's going to look like is just 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 9. Okay, so that's pretty easy little transition. Okay, continuing to 7-9. Slight little shift on the B string, because that's just what we got to do to accommodate that B string. And so that's going to be on 8, 10, 12, and then 10, 12. And then we're going to go all the way up to 15 and do a great big overbend. Okay, so so see if you can kind of get this this sequence here. As you can hear, it's very musical, and all you're doing is a minor pentatonic scale, but it's diagonally up and across the strings. Okay, so and you could even start it from the 3rd fret or even the low E string if you really want to kind of root it back to home base center. So okay. One more time, we'll do that from the open E string just so we can kind of center our ears and know that we're all basing this around an E. So ready, go. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to the next section of our solo. So, where are we at here in the tab? Okay, so now we are going to page number 2 of the tab. So, we're just gonna, so after that, a big rip like that, and it's kind of fast, right? So we're gonna go. And in fact, I'm doing some hammer-ons there, right? So 5, hammer on 5, hammer on 5, and a slide, right? And I'm doing that slide right into that bend. So see if you can go like 12th fret, 15th fret, do that slide right into the bend. Okay? Okay, so keeping things moving along. Now we're going to get into some heated minor pentatonic shredville. So right here, we're going to actually get back to, like I've got some licks that kind of just sit there for a second, because that's the whole thing. After a shred like that, a lot of tension. Okay, you can kind of resolve something like that. But now we're going to go back to that motif again, that lick. So we're going to go. Okay, so there's that lick that we've been seeing. All right, so now we find it up here, 15th fret. Okay, so that's just right on basically the top of page 2, the second line on page 2. You guys see the tabs there though too. Okay, so and now we're going to introduce another hybrid scale here as well. So because why not? Why wouldn't we? So we got some cool licks here. So this is the third hybrid scale that we want to get into. So yeah, so after that whole rip, we got and just from kind of like a practice standpoint, just to simplify things, like don't worry about licks or rhythm or the tabs or anything. All that section is just we're going 10, 12, 10, 12, 14, and then 12, 14, 12, 14. And certainly we can expand that up, kind of like how we did the hybrid scale down here. It's just here we're able to start on a lower note, the D, and then before we get back to the 12th fret. So we got 10, 12, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14. Okay, and that's like really the main part of that the hybrid scale I want to show you. But you can, like I said, you can definitely extend that and expand on that by going 12, 14, 16. 15, 17, 15, 17, even 19. So there's a huge expansive range of your minor pentatonic scale. And let me know what you guys think. And of course you guys are welcome to ask questions as we go, guys. But yeah, like, I mean, typically we would learn our scale like this. So there's our 5th position, then we've got our root position here, and then our 2nd position here. And then we've got our 3rd position here. Okay, and of course, you know, we're going diagonally up and through those notes. So, but it's, as you can hear, it's the same as if I were to go. Okay, it's really, really similar. We're following that similar path as that. So anyways, this really makes a lot more sense to me, and I love showing this and sharing this with students because, you know, in terms of using scales as a roadmap to perform solos and to improvise, and also to kind of understand what professionals have been doing for years and years, it's really helpful to kind of see that diagonal sequence. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think of that. So that's what that lick is, and what's happening there is we've got this, we kind of like resolve our minor pentatonic shred. Okay, and then we got this motif again. Okay, and we're just like connecting a couple of minor pentatonic scales together to create this hybrid scale. All right, so now I really want to show you guys, this is where definitely the lesson gets like a little bit more complex. I know that you know, technical ability is always something challenging on the guitar, like just having the physical ability to, you know, rip fast and stuff like that, and I'm always working on it myself. But I want to show you this idea of creating and finding a repeating lick to play that sounds really, really good. And if you can just play just a few notes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, like you're about to see, and then just work on that, getting that fast. And if you get a bunch of those in your tool belt, that sounds really, really great for for ripping solos. So the lick that I want to show you is just right at the bottom of page 2 on the tab, and we got so that's all it is. So we got 12th fret, pull off on that B string, and that's actually it, okay? Okay, but if you repeat it and get it in a rhythmic sequence, as you can see, we've got this triplet quarter note, triplet quarter note. So now the fingers are really important. I actually took some private lessons recently from this guy who's actually unfortunately passed, so it doesn't really matter if I share his name or not. But anyways, he was showing me that if you actually use different fingers for that same note, so particularly on the 15th fret, this will allow a lick like this to happen a lot faster. So, because my tendency was to go like this. Like to use the same finger, but he pointed out to me that you can actually play it a lot faster if you go like this. So the first pull off would be with your pinky finger, but then while that's pulling off, you can wrap your third finger around, okay, and get that bend in there. Okay, so nice and slow, that would look like this. You see, Simon mentioned something about Jimmy. Oh, I thought you were spelling Jimmy like Jimmy Page, so that kind of sounds like boom, boom, boom. Total Led Zeppelin intro. I forget what song that is, but. And so, but of course, that's without the hammer-ons and pull-offs. But yeah. So see if you can get that going on in a sequence, and the key, of course, is to really start out slow like this. I'm just going to accelerate it really quickly here. Okay, so something like that is super fiery, right? But it's so simple when you break it down. It's just a couple of notes. Okay, so that's the very first lick there. And then we're going to expand that a little bit, or you can expand it to, and this is like what Slash would have done in Sweet Child of Mine, for instance, is something like this. Just adding in that 14th fret of the G string. Okay, so again, it's just a couple notes that are just played really, really fast, you know, but it sounds super impressive. And honestly, like, that's my favorite moments in playing solos and hearing solos, is when I lock in with the band and just like really dig into something fast and fiery like that. Okay, and then we're going to open it up to actually a lick that I learned through the John Mayer Trio. And yeah, let me know if you guys have ever listened to that album. I wasn't actually really into John Mayer before I listened to the John Mayer Trio, and I think it was on one of the Jimi Hendrix covers that he did. But anyways, so it sounds like this. So what that is it's just on the last couple lines on the tab on page 3, and we got this 12-14. So again, kind of connecting into the bottom part of that hybrid scale. So, but yeah, this is super fiery. Okay, so again, we got this kind of repeating lick. So that's 12, 14, up to 12 again. Okay, so let me know, guys. Let's I'm gonna go ahead and just turn on the track here. Okay, but what I want to do is set you guys up. Okay, so a question just came in, and this is exactly what I'm getting to. So just to finish my thoughts. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on the track. I'm gonna rip through this solo, pretty much note for note, like you'll see it tabbed out, okay? I might expand on things just because I might just feel it in the moment to rip, or I might kind of extend it a little bit or something. But you know, the context or all the concepts are all here, okay? And we've covered a lot of these, and you'll recognize a lot of these licks that I'm gonna play when I go through this solo. But yeah, this is a live lesson, guys, and I really appreciate you guys for joining me. And by the way, anybody that's on the Campfire Guitar Star YouTube channel, Jamplay has been really cool to hook you guys up with a 7-day free trial. And you'll find that in the link in the description below. There's a link there to click. Of course, all you Jamplay guys already got the tabs. You already got the access to download this jam track that I composed and recorded here in my home studio last week. So you guys have all access to that. But yeah, anybody from the Campfire Guitar Star community, definitely start your free 7-day trial to Jamplay. And yeah, I've got 6 courses on Jamplay, which have been a ton of fun recording over the years. And it's been really great hearing from you guys to see that you're getting value from that. And I'm stoked because it's Rock Guitar Solo of the Week #1, and we're almost all the way through. So now, for those of you guys that are on the live call, it's gonna be Q&A time. So if you have questions about the guitar, about the lesson that we went over, if you want me to go over a particular section of this tab, I'm happy to do that. That's what we're here to do, and that's kind of the beauty of these live lessons. So anything that you got in terms of guitar and music, go ahead and type those in. My main man, Chris Smith from Jamplay, is gonna be making sure that I get those. So go ahead and get those typing fingers going, ask those questions, and let's get the conversation rolling. And I'll go ahead and fire up this track and let it rip for you guys just while those come in, all right? So here we go. I'll do a couple minutes of Jimi style soloing. And of course, I'm going to start the solo off with the motif. All right, all right. Good times had by all, hopefully. So guys, do let me know if, let's get the conversation rolling on some Q&A. Happy to go over any of these parts. Any questions that you do have about guitar, make sure to get those typing fingers flying. And we'll just hang out here and chat. But yeah, that's essentially what I had planned for you guys. And of course, as mentioned, you Jam Play members are able to download the tabs, which is all done in Guitar Pro, in case you have that, which will play the solo note for note and get those ideas across for you. And also you can just download kind of the PDF version of it. And then of course the jam track that I composed here at my home studio, you'll be able to jam over that. And yeah, I just had some fun like recording bass over that. We've got like a moving bass pattern that's kind of doing something like. Okay, so yeah, it just kind of creates a little bit of movement, and hopefully you'll enjoy jamming over it. So. And then yeah, as mentioned, if you guys are watching from the Campfire Guitar Star YouTube channel or the Beginner Guitar Players on Facebook page, I've included a link to start a 7-day free trial on Jam Play. So make sure to check that out. Okay, so let's just make sure that I got everything pulled up here. All right. All right, okay. Cool, so FM on YouTube was saying that he's digging these E minor licks. That's great. And Simon says that the tab is reading upside down because maybe that's, because Jimmy played, a right-handed guitar, restrung and played it left-handed. But yeah, that is kind of the confusing thing about tab, isn't it? Is that you kind of got to read it like this. So if you're ever wondering about where those notes are and how they line up, just literally do that to the computer screen, and you'll be able to see the notes a little more clear. And yeah, hopefully it'll make a little more sense, because tab is something that I wish that I mastered a little bit more and got better at earlier on in my guitar playing life, because there's so many great tabs out there that are done by total professionals, and there's all kinds of great software like this Guitar Pro and and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like a lot of people are confused by tab, or they kind of get the basics down and they know, okay, like a 5 on that line means the fifth fret. Okay, I get it. Like, yeah, you can learn how to read tab within a couple minutes, really. Like, I teach kids how to read tab. But, of course, there's so much more to tab. Like, when you start reading a whole bunch of notes with hammer-ons and pull-offs and slides and bends, there's actually tab can get quite elaborate, and especially with rhythmic notation. So tab can actually get incredibly detailed and incredibly accurate. Like just as much as really like written notation, that piano players and stuff read. So it's yeah. So spend time on tab. It's pretty good to get that under your fingers and get going on. So Big Jim 8764. Okay, I have to call you by your name, Big Jim 8764, just so we don't get them confused with Big Jim 8765, because he asks, do you use really light strings to get those big bends? Those are so hard. Any advice for making them better? Yes, I do, man. Okay, so I do not have light strings on this guitar. I have the standard gauge, which is 10 through 46. That's basically just the strings that come on any old guitar. Plus I have quite high action on this guitar to eliminate any fret buzz. And yeah, so that kind of like makes the strings even tighter. But the whole key to making string bends happen is to get more fingers on that string. So for instance, when I talked about this briefly when we were talking about this lick right here. We were talking about like the intro to Wild Thing. Okay, So I talked about how you want to bend that with your second finger, but look at my first finger. I got to get that finger in behind it in order to get the muscle behind it to make it happen, okay? So I'm bending that, in that case, I'm bending it towards the floor, okay? But certainly you could bend it towards the ceiling too. Okay? It just kind of depends on the context and what's coming up next. And you'll kind of just develop a feel for that. But if we go up to, say like that 15th fret of the high E string, okay, so now look at my fingers. I've got 4 fingers, all 4 of my fingers lined up to get that one string bending, okay? If you just try to bend that one string with one finger or even just 2, you're gonna have a heck of a time getting that bent up towards the ceiling in order to get some of those big overbends. So what I would recommend is get all those 4 fingers like roughly kind of loaded up on all the frets behind it, but they're not really exact, they just kind of end up being that way. But so the next thing is just like getting a position with your thumb where you can just get leverage on, right? Okay, and then the third element is being able to plow through the other string. So when I'm bending that, I'm gonna hit the B string and the G string and a little bit of the D string too. Okay, but that's, let me know, Big Jim 8764, if that is helping you out. Like, let me know, were you bending the string just with one finger, or what was the case? So, but that's really the big key with all those bends. Even with those fast licks, you can see that I'm getting like 2 or 3 fingers lined up behind that third finger. Like at least I got my second finger in behind it, okay? So that is always, always, always the key to bends, guys. If you're ever struggling with bends, just make sure you get more muscle on that string, okay? So let me know if that helped you out there, Big Jim 8764. Okay, T-tremor. T-tremor. What is the, asks, okay, here's his question. What is the best way to train oneself to break out of pentatonic boxes? Any exercises? Well, how do you get out of minor pentatonic boxes? Okay, so I wish that we could have like a real-time conversation, because I would ask you a question right out the gate here. So why is it that you feel that you need to get out of the minor pentatonic boxes, okay? Because if you want to play rock and blues, then actually staying in the minor pentatonic boxes and really making those work for you is actually going to be a lot better than getting out of the minor pentatonic boxes. So probably what's happening is you're getting bored by your playing. You're just kind of like maybe playing the same licks over and over, not really making things sound that great. So, you know, hopefully I'm nailing your question on the head here. But so there's a couple of ideas of like what you can do. Okay, so say what you want to do is like, of course we've got all these notes, right? Like I just showed you, like we got this crazy hybrid scale, and that's all minor pentatonic, right? But what's actually really cool is that if you actually limit yourself, okay? So what? So for example, and I can actually throw on the track here, and what I'll do is I'll grab these 4 notes, and even more so, I'll just grab, and then by the way, that's 15, 17, 15, 17, just on the high couple strings here. And what I'm really gonna focus on is really just these notes. Yeah, I'll play those 4 notes, okay? So, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to make this solo as interesting as possible by doing a few lead guitar techniques. I'm gonna focus on slides, bends, vibrato, and hammer-ons and pull-offs, okay? So those are, of course, the lead guitar techniques, and then also phrasing. You know, see if you can, and we talked about a motif, like maybe we can come up with like a musical phrase that we can kind of come back to. Also, you can add space. So adding space, for instance, is kind of like taking away, you know, it's kind of taking away instead of adding more. Like instead of, hey, here's like a Dorian scale, or hey, here's all these other scales, you can actually take away. You can add space, you can remove notes, and just see if you can make something more interesting. So I'll just give you a quick example of what that might look like, all right? So here we go. That's all one note so far, right? All right, so I didn't even hit this note, right? And as you guys could tell, I was really focusing on this one note, which was up on the 17th fret of the high E string, and just really focusing on bends and really the rhythm, right? So really just trying to be creative with the rhythm and just the placement of that. So I know I didn't really answer your question, but the other thing that you guys got to get on is if you want to break out of your minor pentatonic scales, you really got to get a grip on major pentatonic. So stick with me on one of the future rock guitar solos of the week. I'm going to be tackling exactly that. And also there's going to be a lesson all about mixing minor and major pentatonic as well. So that's going to be super cool as well. So, okay, so let's see. There's a couple of questions coming up on the YouTube stream over here. Cool. So, okay, I got a compliment on my shirt. I figured I had to wear a 60s rock t-shirt today. So, okay, cool. And I have a question regarding these E minor licks. I like to know how to mix these licks, or even more basic E minor licks, with E blues or shuffle or straight rock rhythm like a Hendrix beat. My main concern is keeping everything in time. Yes. Example number 1 bar of rhythm, then 1 bar of lead. What is your thought process to keep everything in time as you play? Any examples you can bring me to practice combining the two? Okay, so that's a really good question. So of course, you know, we all gotta work on our time. If you guys know the famous guitar player Tommy Emmanuel, he has a really cool quote that says, you should be working on your time all the time, okay? And I've been working with a metronome a lot lately, like more so in the last probably couple of years than maybe I ever have. But I developed really strong rhythm. And not that my rhythm's like super good, but you know, it's good enough to play in bands or to play shows and record songs and stuff like that, you know? So how I got it up to that level was, and this was reiterated when I went to music college by one of my music teachers, is you gotta listen to rhythmic music and you gotta play that rhythmic music. And it doesn't have to be that complex. So what I would suggest for you there, FM, is you can, like I grew up playing a lot of Rage Against the Machine, which is basically Led Zeppelin with James Brown mixed together. You know, it's like funk rock. And so like one of the most basic Rage Against the Machine riffs is Bulls on Parade, which is just on these two notes, which sound something like this. Okay, so now it's one thing to play that riff. It's like, okay, da-dum, da-dum, okay, I get it. But can you play it along with Rage Against the Machine, like so in time that you could maybe replace Tom Morello on stage and make 60,000 people all jump up and down at the same time? You know, is your rhythm that good? You know, so you can actually take some pretty basic things and learn them note for note and play along with the track. And so that's great that you're into blues, but yeah, learn some of those rhythm tracks or rhythm guitar parts and see if you can play along with the track start to finish. You know, and that can be as simple as going like Johnny Be Good, for instance. See if you can play Johnny Be Good, like just the rhythm guitar part to Johnny Be Good for 2.5 minutes. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit with your rhythm there. Okay, so Gabe Soze. I'm trying my best with your guys' names here. Anyways, so Gabe asks, could you show how you get your vibrato? Yes, sure. Let's do a quick breakdown of vibrato. So let's just work on, say, since we're in E, why don't we go up to the 12th fret of the G string, and we'll go like this. Okay, so this is what we're working on. Now, so that's the note that we're gonna do vibrato on, okay? So we've got our thumb hook, our first finger hook, okay? And that's the very first step of vibrato because you wanna get a really good grip on the guitar neck, okay? When we get that first finger on there, what we wanna do is, of course, it's a form of bending, right? So we're bending that string, but we're returning it to home base. We're not bending it towards the ceiling and towards the floor. We're only bending it one direction. In this case, I'm going to suggest that you go towards the floor and back home, to the floor, back home. Now let's see if we can get a rhythm going, okay? And what you'll notice is that my finger is actually twisting, okay? So and also I've noticed that Stevie Ray Vaughan would kind of like have his hand kind of hang off the guitar like this, whereas I kind of twist my hand. Okay, so I don't know, you got to kind of figure out which way works for you. And each finger is going to kind of require a slightly different technique. But, okay, so we got something like this going on. So if we get that finger twist. Now see if we can just do something basic. So say if we get this rhythm like this. Okay, so, and that's the big thing, is getting a rhythm to it. So see if you can put it to a metronome, for instance, and just like each time that you hit that bent section, that would be the click, 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 okay? And then eventually you can start getting more musical and kind of faster vibratos going on, like 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what you'll also notice is that I start getting the guitar neck shaking, and that's where that thumb and finger lock come into play. Is I actually get, you know, especially on like a wider vibrato or something like that, I'll actually get the whole guitar just kind of pivoting right here on my leg, and that's all happening through that finger and thumb lock here, but yeah, and just getting the headstock shaken up and down in that same rhythmic sequence. And that's the big thing that I think a lot of people mess up on in vibrato, is that you got to bend one way back home, okay, and not like all over the place. And then the other thing is like getting a rhythm to it. Like a lot of people are like, right, and that's also like not bringing it back home to center. Right, so if you're getting bad sound on vibrato, you're probably not bringing it home to center. You're like bending it and then like kind of like randomly bending it like all over the place. So you gotta bend it, bring it home, bend it, bring it home, bend it, bring it home. And actually just a student recently that I've been teaching put just this spider walk to scale to a metronome. So then you can practice vibrato on each finger. Okay, and then of course, vibrato on bends is like a whole other challenge, but so first you got to get your bends in tune, and then same kind of idea. I've got my thumb and finger lock going on. Okay, and then I'm pulsating that note and getting that guitar jiggling to help me out with that. So anyways, hopefully those give you some ideas. Vibrato is definitely a very advanced technique to get it mastered. But okay, cool. Good to hear from you, Luke. Good to see you on the call. Okay. Eyes Without a Face. Ooh, Eyes Without a Face says, because you bend through all strings, sometimes I will have them ring out as I unbend. Yes. Okay, I think I know what you're getting at. It's worse if the action is high because fingers can get caught under strings. How do you stop this ringing? Okay, so I think what you're talking about is when you go like this. So it's like something like this. So you can hear like there's an extra string getting ringing because when you release a bend, it's just like you get this sound, okay? So what I think is your issue there, Eyes Without a Face, is you gotta go like this. You gotta get your strings muted with your right hand, okay? So what that's gonna mean is that now with my hand here, I'm blocking all of the E, A, D, and G strings from ringing up here. So if I do that bend, got it covered, right? So that's the whole thing. And that's a big thing actually that a lot of guitarists miss out on is that right hand placement. And people are like, I have various lessons like on jam play, for instance, about this topic of getting the right hand planted, because a lot of people, they try to play without their right hand planted, or they pivot and they try to get stability like with their pinky finger, for instance, and some funny things like that. And so, but see if you can really get more stability on the bridge of the guitar and using the heel of your hand, and that will get your hand stabilized over there, which will really, really help you out a ton. And also as kind of like a bonus technique, you get to mute strings from ringing, okay? Okay, guys, so that's about all we got time for today. So this is Rock Guitar Solo of the Week #1, Jimmy's Voodoo. You Jam Play members will have access to the tab, the backing track, and of course the replay. And for anybody that's watching on the Campfire Guitar Star YouTube channel, start your 7-day free trial to Jam Play. That will be so good for your playing. You can get access to 6 of my courses, plus thousands of others. Jam Play is just absolutely killing it, and they've been killing it for years in the online guitar space. So all you Jam Play members already know that. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in with me here today. It was a ton of fun preparing this lesson for you. I love Jimi Hendrix, and I'm happy to share some of these techniques with you. So we are going to go live every Friday at the same time. So put that in your calendars. This is the week #1 of 8. Okay, so put that in your calendars, and we will see you next Friday, my friends. So until the next lesson, keep on ripping it up. We'll catch you then.